In the bustling city of Lagos, Nigeria, there lived a beautiful young woman named Karen. She was 24 years old and worked as a secretary in a big company. Karen was loved by everyone in the office because of her kindness and the way she always smiled, even when things were tough. One day, after a long day at work, Karen was walking home. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. As she walked, a sleek black car slowly drove by her side. The windows rolled down, and an older man with a kind smile peered out. His name was Richard Gere, one of the richest men in Lagos. He was a billionaire known for his many businesses and his large, beautiful houses. Richard Gere was captivated by Karen's beauty. He had never seen anyone so graceful and lovely. Without thinking twice, he told his driver to stop the car. He stepped out and walked over to Karen. "Hello, my dear," Richard Gere said warmly. "I couldn't help but notice how beautiful you are. What is your name?" Karen, feeling a bit shy, replied, "My name is Karen, sir." "Karen," Richard Gere repeated with a smile. "Such a lovely name. I would like to get to know you better. May I take you home?" Karen politely declined. "Thank you, sir, but I can walk home myself." Richard Gere nodded, respecting her decision. But as he watched her walk away, he couldn't get her out of his mind. That evening, he made up his mind to marry her. The next day, Richard Gere dressed in his finest clothes and drove to Karen's house. He was determined to speak with her father, Mysteries, and ask for Karen's hand in marriage. When he arrived, Mysteries was surprised to see such a wealthy and important man at his doorstep. He quickly welcomed him inside and offered him a drink. Richard Gere did not waste any time. "I met your daughter, Karen, yesterday," he began. "She is a rare gem. I would like to marry her." Mysteries was overjoyed. A marriage to Richard Gere would bring great honor and wealth to their family. He immediately agreed. "It would be an honor for my daughter to marry you, Richard," Mr. E said. However, when Karen heard about the proposal, she was not happy. She did not like Richard Gere. Her heart already belonged to someone else, a young man named Ryan, who was kind and hard-working, but not wealthy. Karen tried to explain this to her father, but Mr. Ease would not listen. "You must marry Richard Gere," Mr. Ease insisted. "He can provide you with everything you need: wealth, security, and a good life. Ryan has nothing to offer you." Karen felt trapped. She loved Ryan with all her heart, but she did not want to disobey her father. She knew that in their culture, it was important to respect the wishes of your parents. The days passed, and the wedding plans moved forward. Karen was heartbroken, but she did not know what to do. Should she follow her heart and be with Ryan, or should she marry Richard Gere to please her father? As the wedding day approached, Karen found herself standing at a crossroads, torn between love and duty. The future seemed uncertain, and she could only hope that something would happen to change her fate. The days before the wedding were filled with tension. Karen couldn't bear the thought of marrying Richard Gere, a man old enough to be her father. Her heart ached for Ryan, the young man she truly loved. One evening, Karen met Ryan in a quiet park, where they often spent time together. The air was cool, and the sound of crickets filled the night. Karen's eyes were filled with tears as she explained the situation to Ryan. "I don't want to marry Richard Gere," Karen whispered, her voice trembling. "He is a good man, but he is not the one I love. My father is forcing me to marry him, and I don't know what to do." Ryan took her hands in his and looked deeply into her eyes. "Karen, you don't have to go through with this. We can run away together. We can start a new life far away from here." Karen's heart raced at the thought of escaping with Ryan. It was a risky idea, but the alternative, marrying a man she didn't love, seemed unbearable. "But what about my father?" she asked. Worried about the consequences, Ryan held her hands firmly. "We will figure it out together. What matters is that we are free to love each other without anyone telling us what to do." Karen nodded. Feeling a sense of hope for the first time in days, they made a plan to leave on the morning of the wedding day. Before anyone could notice, the day of the wedding arrived. Karen was dressed in a beautiful white gown, but her heart was heavy. As the time for the ceremony grew closer, she felt more and more anxious. She knew this was her last chance to escape. Early in the morning, while the house was still quiet, Karen and Ryan slipped out of the back door. They had packed a small bag with a few belongings and were ready to leave Lagos behind. They walked quickly through the empty streets, their hearts pounding with both fear and excitement. But not long after they left, Richard Gere arrived at Karen's house, expecting to see his bride. When he learned that Karen was nowhere to be found, his face darkened with anger. He was not a man who was used to being denied what he wanted. "Find them," Richard Gere ordered his men. "They cannot have gone far. When I find them, they will both regret this." Ryan and Karen were on their way to the bus station when they noticed a black car speeding towards them. Ryan recognized it immediately. It was one of Richard Gere's cars. "We need to hurry," Ryan shouted. Grabbing Karen's hand, they ran as fast as they could, but the car was gaining on them. Richard Gere's men soon caught up to them. They were grabbed roughly and brought back to the house. When they arrived, Richard Gere was waiting, his eyes filled with cold fury. "You think you can humiliate me like this?" he hissed. "You will pay for this, both of you." Karen and Ryan trembled as they faced the billionaire's wrath. They didn't know what he would do, but they knew it wouldn't be good. Richard Gere was a powerful man, and crossing him was dangerous. "What will happen to us now?" Karen whispered to Ryan, her fear growing. Richard Gere's revenge was just beginning. The atmosphere in the room was thick with tension. As Karen and Ryan stood before Richard Gere, his usually calm demeanor was replaced by a cold, calculating stare. The air seemed to crackle with his anger, and Karen could feel her heart pounding in her chest. "You thought you could run away and humiliate me?" Richard Gere's voice was low, almost a whisper, but it carried the weight of his fury. "I have worked too hard, built too much to be made a fool of by a girl and her penniless lover." Karen clung to Ryan, fear tightening her grip. She had always known that Richard Gere was a powerful man, but seeing him like this made her realize just how dangerous he could be. Ryan tried to remain calm. "We didn't mean to hurt you, Richard," he said, trying to reason with the man. "Karen doesn't love you. She loves me. All we want is to be together." Richard Gere's eyes narrowed. "Love," he spat. "What do you know of love? Love is not enough. To keep a roof over your head, to feed your family, to command respect in this world. No, I will teach you both a lesson you will never forget." He signaled to his men, who immediately grabbed Ryan, pulling him away from Karen. She screamed and tried to reach him, but one of the guards held her back. "Please, don't hurt him," she cried, tears streaming down her face. Richard Gere looked at her with disdain. "Oh, I won't hurt him," he said, a cruel smile playing on his lips. "But you will both pay, in a way that will make you wish you had never crossed me."